Thanks, everyone, for coming to listen to us chat about what we would love to see in Polkadot. And just to give you a sneak preview, we're going to be talking about OpenGov, funding, enterprise adoption, and UX for developers. And we'll go into a bit more detail. And it might get a little bit spicy up here because we're going to be honest, also optimistic and constructive. So with that, we're going to go straight to Raul, who is going to, take us a little bit through his experience with OpenGov, Gov 1, Gov 2. It's gotten considerable attention recently, what's happening. And I think we'd all love to hear what your assessment is of how things have gone thus far.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to talk about governance because that's what I do. What I want to see and what are the lessons learned, right? I could say that if I have to judge in general terms open governance model, I would say that given the increase in Treasury submissions, how easier it has become for participants to submit proposals, to discuss, to vote with the different user interfaces that now exist compared to what we had back in Governance 1 or at the beginning of OpenGov even, with participation of fellowship and with the increase of bounties and also collectives, I would assess that open governance model is actually a pretty positive experience. It has shown that the community can really commit and participate and vote on the things that they want to see in the ecosystem. That said, I don't think it comes without friction, right? When we move from Governance 1 to open governance, we move from a representative model to a more direct democracy model. Of course, still coin voting, not one-on-one, but very direct compared to what we had before, which lowers the liability of those representing token holders, as you might know, but at the same time, it allows the community to decide on things, right? And this is very, very important because the DAO is for and from the community. What I would like to see moving forward is something that I think I've been very repetitive through the years since the moment that this was created, but I really think bounties mechanism is a fantastic way to control spending, something that the community has been questioning in the past weeks, given the report from Alice and Bob, which is something that we really need to have, reporting. It allows us to budget the treasury. That is the final goal of bounties. And it allows us to provide to the community experts that can assess what is the best solution within the scope of work of the bounty, right? I don't think bounties have been widely used. I think it's time we use it. It might be because of limitations with the user experience as well. It is true that it's hard to navigate through sub-bounties on a particular bounty. I think there is something that the bounties process is missing, and that is a good RFP phase for experts to call on applications from the community if they want to build or solve any particular issue in the ecosystem. And I think collectives is an evolved solution from bounties. I think it could be a really, really good alternative when it comes to representation in the ecosystem from the community to particular experts. We can allocate particular sub-treasuries or budgets to this collectives and make it work. I think, given the experience that we have on open governance and the experience we have in Governance 1, it wouldn't hurt to experiment with a hybrid model between direct democracy and representation. I think it would be very important to work with something like this. I also think that Gavin was talking yesterday about proof of personhood. I think it's a very important project in order to experiment with things that other ecosystems have been experimented with partial success, I would say. Particularly, I'm very interested in quadratic voting. I think it's something that is very interesting. I've been talking about it for a very long time. So those are the things I would like to see on governance, particularly. On the governance process and tools that we have itself, I think something that can automate even more the information and the data that we have from governance in order to solve the the problem of asymmetric information that has become even worse with open governance model, given the access the community has to discussion and voting, I think that would be very important as well. So those are the things that I would like to see on the governance model in particular. Better UX for the fellowship and for collectives in general. It's something that we need to have in order for collectives to thrive. People working on the accountability side of things and transparency side of things for bounties and collectives, making sure that reporting is regular and that experts gives the information about what they're spending. But most of all, I think Alice and Bob and Tommy was talking yesterday about a strategy for Polkadot. I think a strategy in a decentralized ecosystem is something that it's definitely needed. It's possible, I agree with Tommy, but it's not possible to have without a budget. Because with a budget, we know what the community prioritizes, and the community is the one voting on it. And I think that would improve the transparency and accountability of the governance model quite a lot. Yeah.
We covered a lot, Raul. Thank you. I mean, we could do, consider this part one. I'm sure we could have a part 2, part 3, and part 4 just on this topic. But, a wealth of knowledge here from Raul. I think, one of the things you brought up was funding. Yeah. And I think that leads very nicely into what Ben is going to talk about. So, Ben, tell us a little bit about OPF. If you can educate everyone on that concept and what it is, what its advantages may be, and kind of why it's important to you. Because, like I said, I think it addresses maybe some of the points that Raul was bringing up as well.
Absolutely, sure. So OPF, or Optimistic Project Funding, is something that was recently approved through OpenGov on the Wish for Change track, which will essentially divert automatically a portion of inflation that traditionally just goes straight to the Treasury. It will divert a portion of those to another pot. Now, this is not something that's a new alien concept. There's an RFC live at the moment to actually start diverting this across. This will be used for things like the collection sub-treasuries, so that individual units can sort of manage spend more in a more controlled environment, a more direct method. So what essentially it will do, that's one part of it. The other part of it is it will then take the funds from that pot and distribute it according to what DOT token holders vote or stake them to. So let's say, for example, we have 3 projects and that are whitelisted for this process. DOT token holders who have their DOT staked, they can be using them in governance. This is an overlapping lock. It's not going to create some new opportunity cost. Essentially, they can choose, like, I really like this project, so I'm going to max conviction lock on this project so that they get a higher proportion of the funds. And then how those dots are then sort of weighted between those projects will determine how much funding they receive from that pot. So you can imagine this, for really popular projects, really popular products, could be quite lucrative. It could be quite a substantial incentive for these projects to come and build on Polkadot, or come and build products that DOT holders are using and that DOT holders enjoy. Because if you have a product that you can't live without in the ecosystem, then you're more likely to direct some of your funds towards that. So this is something that in Polkadot, because we have upgradable runtimes, we can just add it. Like we've learned lots of lessons so far from OpenGov with bounties. We can see what other people are doing. The optimisms like retroactive grants that they do, they get a lot of attention for that. They spend a lot of money incentivizing builders in that way. We also have in the ecosystem Astar DApp staking. We've got Invarch DAO staking. So these are all sort of similar concepts that we've been able to learn lessons from and collaboratively. I'm an ecosystem lead for hydration, but in terms of, I'm just an ordinary DOT token holder, just like anybody else, and got my head together with some other community members to agree that, this is something that we thought made sense. And so we've sort of pulled that together collectively, got agreement through governance we want to do that, and now we're looking to pull in the developers to actually implement it. So Polkadot I like to consider as sort of coordination technology. You can just have an idea, you can find like-minded people who are on par with that idea, and then you can collectively use your dots, put in a referendum, and Bob's your uncle.
Cool. And that was on the Wish for Change track. Yep. Cool. And which that can that track always has a lively discussion going on. Actually, it's good to watch that if y'all don't, because I think it really is a hotbed for new ideas, complaints, but also ways to fix things. So if you would like to see something on Polkadot, maybe you can go down that Wish for Change track too and suggest something. Now, we were talking about encouraging people to build. That's, probably one of the kernels in what you said, Ben. And Kerstin, you actually focus on enterprises and bringing them to, like, enterprise adoption, right? Bringing them to Polkadot. So it would be great to hear some of your thoughts on lessons learned and also where we could be forging ahead in that arena in the next 6, 9, 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for the question, Chrissy. As somebody that specializes in enterprise adoption, I do see quite several challenges, but also opportunities. So hopefully somebody here will get inspired and possibly come up with a proposal to do some small fixes. But in terms of the major pushbacks that I see when I speak to enterprises, they are typically centered around 3 things. So first, complex communication. And the industry has a lot of very specific technical terms that are not their usual jargon. So that's one of the topics. But then the other topic is data privacy. Not all companies want their data to be shared on a public ledger. Thirdly, it's interoperability beyond the ecosystem. So let's touch on the first topic. When it comes to the communication, today enterprises are very much used to buying technology. They are just a little bit unfamiliar with some of the industry terms that we use, and there are also terms that vary across ecosystems, making it even more hard for them. So my wish is really for enterprises to be able to buy blockchain technology as easily as they buy cloud services today. We can do that in a number of different ways, but we do have a new website coming up, for example, which is something that will help educate the market broadly. And secondly, we also do proposals, but also we're thinking about packaging. How do we package different products to really target enterprises? I think a really good example of this is subnets, for example, by another ecosystem. There are lots of really good learnings, but really like having a simple language is something that really attracts enterprises because they don't really want to introduce risk. They want to understand the real values, and they want to be able to buy things that they feel comfortable and reassured by. Secondly, the privacy aspect. It's quite a central point in blockchain. So you can think about specific industries such as health tech, but also financial services, where they're not really, privacy is paramount to what they do, and they have quite a lot of concerns when it comes to sharing data, when it comes to the volumes, specific transaction data, even a hashed address that potentially could be deriving personal information. So some interesting solutions for that that I see that we actually don't have at scale yet, but one thing that I really like to see is private side chains, but that are connected to a public ledger to ensure security and to ensure nobody in the sort of permission group does anything that's tampering. So I would say, to give an example, a bank consortium could very well have a permission sidechain where only the specific entities would be able to read from that chain. And also that way you're able to only share the data with the selected organizations. Something similar could be possible for a healthcare company that would like to use a shared ledger for patient records, to be able to share that across several different clinicians or organizations. And and then one thing that we're looking at is how do we package a solution like that. That's quite interesting to consider. The third one is interoperability, and interoperability is obviously at the core of Polkadot and Polkadot's architecture, and so it's very important. But this is really beyond the ecosystem. So when I talk to enterprises, a lot of them want to achieve market coverage. So market coverage is really, how do we cover as much of the market as possible? So where are the users today? Which chains have the most activity? And they quite quickly understand that they probably need to integrate about 5 or 6 chains to have market coverage. Same goes with the wallets. So if you're able to provide a solution that allows them one integration, that is a much more cost-efficient way for them to integrate blockchain technology. So they really have hesitations when it comes to integrating like 5 integrations. That's another interesting technical challenge, of course, but opportunity to kind of think about. We have recently launched a very, well, I would say probably the best in the world kind of bridge, which is called Snowbridge. That was launched on the 17th of June, if I'm not mistaken. And that allows us to very easily integrate with other ecosystems, including EVM. We also have EVM compatible chains. So there is a lot that we can do already, but I think that further stronger collaboration with other ecosystems is really an interesting thought. So that's for it.
All right, yeah.
I just want to comment on something. I think enterprise integration is one hand, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. But when it comes to institutional integration of the Polkadot network, particularly on financial institutions, there's a lot of talking on Twitter about financial assets, futures, ETFs, but even banks listing DOT as an asset that their clients can purchase and hold. Yeah. There will be little institutional integration on Polkadot until there is an AML tool that helps them with the number one condition they have, which is to fulfill the conditions that enforcement agencies are obliged to fulfill with enforcement agencies. Yeah. You can call this solution, there's been a lot of talking about Chainalysis. You can call this solution Chainalysis, you can call it whatever you want. I don't agree with the price tag that Chainalysis came on the first proposal, but I do think that if we don't have an AML tool that helps these particular institutions track where DOT is going or where their DOT is going, particularly in an environment like Polkadot, where interoperability reigns, it would be very difficult for these institutions to be able to list DOT as an asset.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there is, going back to my point around risk, enterprises, they go to a large extent to really protect their currently lucrative business, revenue generating already. And obviously, AML is probably one of the most needed and most scrutinized part right now from the regulatory side. This is something that Chrissy knows most about.
In a former life, I was a compliance officer in an investment bank and worked in the control room where we were looking at AML. And it would definitely, without something, they will just put it in the too hard basket. It's just not worth the risk. I mean, you're right, because they are very risk averse for very good reasons. Some reasons we might not agree with, but it's there, and there are very large fines attached to getting it wrong. So yeah, this is definitely a hot topic. I did tell y'all it was going to get spicy a little bit. So we've covered governance, we've covered optimistic funding, we've covered enterprise adoption, also AML, a bonus topic. One of the last topics we wanted to cover was the UX for developers, because that definitely has been a topic that keeps coming up as well. And we've got Berto, who can take you through some of his thoughts on just that topic generally, why it matters, and what your personal opinion is, Berto, because I know you're always very shy to share that.
Very shy. Thanks, Chrissy. I think that it's worth kicking off with the Polkadot ecosystem is kind of nothing without the people that are the parachains and the builders and the people that are actually building on the ecosystem. We can have a good relay chain, but the ecosystem will flourish when we have builders and parachains and developers and dApps and stuff happening. And I think there are quite a lot of, it feels like I'm quiet, I think there's quite a lot of lessons learned from early on with the first launching of the parachain, and I think we've seen it is, or can be, expensive and costly to launch a chain, as I'm sure many here will agree. And so I think over time, so I work for Parity. Parity is very focused on this and basically removing barriers to entry, making it cheaper, making it more accessible. And so some examples are core time, and then a block by block core time that you can purchase, for example. Another thing we've been really focused on is one-click deployment of chains. So you can spin up you can go to, for example, Zeev and go deploy Polkadot parachain, configure some stuff, click pay, put in your credit card, and you can launch a chain in 15 minutes or something, which is quite a lot quicker than previously. And I think the other stuff like async backing, elastic scaling, and more tech stuff. And I think also another issue that we have had looking back is kind of liquidity. But I think we now have Snowbridge, like you said. We have Hyperbridge. We have many other bridges that are deploying and making it easier and easier to bridge funds from other chains. We're having more centralized exchange onboarding, more on-ramp onboarding. Pendulum, I'm not sure if anyone saw a demo, this awesome off-ramp. We can just off-ramp to Euro very easily. So I think there's been a lot of stuff building to make it easier and easier and easier, more and more enticing to come and build on Polkadot. Yes. Also, I think there are some other interesting things that have been proposed. So Gava's proposing Jam, if you weren't aware, which is kind of a next evolution of Polkadot 3.0. I don't know. There are also other ecosystem leaders or ecosystem agents like Rob proposing things like Plaza, and there are a lot of ideas to make it easier and easier to come and deploy. And I think again, maybe a little bit spicy, but not everyone needs to deploy a chain as the first thing they do. Maybe you can start with a smart contract or a dApp, and as you get more adoption, work your way there. I think there's a more kind of natural path for builders. But if you want to deploy a chain, well, power to you. We can make that easy too, right? So I think that maybe that's a lot of things. I don't know. I think in terms of I would like to see, or we would like to see from builders and UX, I think making it easier and easier to deploy contracts on Asset Hub or parachains, that is good. And we have maybe the meme in crypto is everyone is building infrastructure, but it would be nice to have a little bit more infrastructure to make that easier as well. Yeah. And sorry, one more thing. Sorry. And I think the lifeblood of any blockchain and metrics that matter to the rest of the world is number of users and number of things happening on the chain. And so we would love to see more developers come and build stuff, get optimistic funding, get treasury proposals, get money through a sub bounty, through the various sub bounties that we have now, and hopefully more in the future. And so I think I'm trying to wrap it all up together. But I think we want to see more projects coming, more people deploying stuff, more users. I think we have seen some pretty interesting sponsorships and tech integrations being proposed and approved and coming soon. Takes a while to build that stuff, but yeah. lots of exciting stuff, I think, happening.
Right. We've got 4 minutes left. Yeah. And I was going to say, you each get a minute to talk about anything that is left on your mind that you want to get off your chest, that you want to share with the crowd, that you think we should be working on. Raul, you're first up.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, so following up on what Berto say, I think that deploying and maintaining a parachain, it's a lot of cost. It's very costly. There's a lot of friction there. So something I would like to see in the near future, and I'm very excited about this because I know a team that is working on this, we have Open Zeppelin templates, palettes ready to use. We have APIs ready to use. We have all of the tools a developer needs. We need a tool that allows developers to deploy a chain in very few clicks, right? Something like, we know this exists in other ecosystems, right? We have Gelato Network, for example, is an example of that. I think we need something like this in the Polkadot ecosystem. I think it could attract much more developer teams come to the ecosystem and to build. And I'm looking forward to see that very soon on Polkadot and Kusama as well.
Well, we got core time.
Sure, but it doesn't mean that parachains will cease to exist, right?
Absolutely, but I think the combination of one-click deployment and core time is extremely powerful.
It can also be used for that.
Yeah, I think my advice would be to start small. So get in the trenches with everyone else and find something that really annoys you or annoys other people, and then put in a proposal or something and just build that small thing. So like there are many things that are just really annoying and nobody does anything about, and everyone just continues to be happy that exist in this really annoying thing. You could just put in a small proposal, get that fixed, build up a bit of credibility around that, and then maybe take, you haven't got to try and build, the whole universe on chain in your first project. You haven't got to try and secure 2 years of runway in doing that. Just find something that needs fixing and quickly go and fix that.
I'm going to say something very controversial here now.
Go for it.
I'm going to say I want to see more UX things. I want to see more application. I don't want to see more infrastructure. We have a lot of amazing infrastructure. Especially it's been a huge focus in the last year, and we really got things to a very good place now. I really want to see focus on UX. User interface, user experience, small games. There was recently a Polkadot game. Yeah. Launched. Small little experiments, things like that, is what really I think is very exciting, and we have a perfect environment to get started with things like that right now.
Berto, any final words?
I would say raise a proposal and not make it $10 million to start with. Please don't do that. I think just to echo everyone, it's like if you have an idea, you can raise a proposal, or if you have a niggling issue, you can raise a GitHub issue. The Parity devs are pretty quick to respond. There's heaps of stuff we can do, but we need also your voice and your concerns and your feedback for ideas to build stuff. And you can build stuff too, right? I think in Ben's example, I've got 30 seconds, but Ben is non-technical, not that technical. You're not a developer. Ben has an idea for optimistic funding. He proposed it. It's been approved, and it's going to get built.
It's awesome.
You can do that, too. That's it.
And in the last 15 seconds, I would offer one of my wishes, wants from Polkadot, and that is to reach out to other protocols, to not isolate ourselves, to show interoperability and connection, not just on the tech side, but also on the people side. I think it's really important as an industry. And, I'm trying to model that myself, and the legal team is, and other teams are within Parity and other projects. And would encourage everyone else to do the same and share the Polkadot story. All right, thanks, bye.
All right, everybody. Well, when people think in Polkadot and the ecosystem, person as smart like you, I think in 3 words: ideas, innovation, and strategy. I think that makes a good resume of what we are doing here. Now let's go open the mic to questions to the public. So use this opportunity to ask all you want. Please feel free.
I would like to ask if Parity is considering to give much power to the people who are doing staking in the nomination pool, because they can vote right now, and could be great give them voice to decide in the ecosystem.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think it has been discussed, and like I believe there's already implementation underway. So like, yes. Agree. We hear you. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Great panel, by the way. I have a question. I think it's more into for Berdo. What do you think about the UX bounty, and what Parity approach is going to be about this?
It's a little hard to hear you, but I think the question was my thoughts on the UX bounty?
Yeah, the UX bounty.
I think that personally, we should involve more of the core developers in the UX bounty and more people that can make change. My personal concern with the bounty is that it is good to have good ideas, but we need to like have action and be able to make change with them. So like either they convert into RFCs or wish for change or something like that. Yeah. But I think it is a good idea, and I do think we need some like collective thinking around how to make things better. And I think there have been some very good ideas proposed for the bounty.
Thank you.
Another question?
Hello, my name is Miguel. I want to make a question also. So, for the teams that are building, that I'm talking about them, I feel the need to that the teams that are already building that share the legal experience. Because I think that when you start something, sometimes you can cross barriers in legal aspects and you don't know it. And I think I would be great to have more sharing the knowledge on legal aspects, because when you ask something, people close themselves because they just tell you, oh, you got to get a lawyer and resolve yourself. That's your problem, you know, and that's not really, it could be more interesting. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to invite you or a member of your team to Polka Legal Call, which has been going on for over a year now, where the legal teams from about, I think, 10 projects get together on a monthly basis to share information. And, you know, certainly that's something we can talk about, because that's open to anyone, any project with a legal team. And it's something where you know, we want to share knowledge as much as we can in the right way. It's more education. So it's there, and come see me after, and we'll talk about getting your team involved.
I might jump in too. I think there are also several teams that are considering proposing like a legal as a service capability or functionality. So if you are a team and you want to deploy and you are unsure like about tokens and where to do this stuff, like there will be teams announcing soon that you can basically interact with, and they will provide this like whole service of stuff, potentially funded by the treasury or something like that. So it's like no cost to you, correct advice, easy.
Actually, I think one of those teams is coming to the Polka Legal Call this month, and there may be some curators coming from there. So we're working together, I think, across a number of areas. Yeah, and I'm hugely supportive of that. It's really important. And there are other operational areas that could also benefit from collectives or teams coming together to provide support, not just legal. So again, if there are any would-be founders who have a more operational type experience and expertise, I would encourage you to think about becoming a founder yourself.
Well, thank you, Grizzly. Please applause and get nice for this wonderful team. Yeah, and I would like to add something to close. Remember that we're an open system, in an ecosystem really open, so feel free to support all kind of development, UX, regulations, or even if you have initiative, feel free to apply to OpenGov. Contact them if you need, you know, considerations?
Just not 10 million.
All right, exactly. So we are ready. Let's go.
All right.
Thank you so much.